George Hope, the stalwart Scotch farmer who revolutionized agriculture. Welcome to an in-depth exploration of George Hope, a pivotal figure in 19th-century Scottish agriculture. In an era dominated by entrenched traditions and rigid social hierarchies, Hope emerged as a transformative force. Today, we delve into how his innovative agronomic practices and unwavering commitment to social reform not only revitalized the land he tended, but also left an indelible mark on agricultural science and societal progress. George Hope was born in 1811 in East Lothian, Scotland, a region renowned for its agricultural potential, yet beset by challenging terrains. As the son of a tenant farmer, he inherited Fenton Barns, a farm encompassing approximately 800 acres that had been worked by the Hope family for generations. The land presented a formidable challenge. Two-thirds comprised heavy, retentive clay soils, notorious for poor drainage and difficult cultivation, while the remaining third was yellow, nutrient-deficient sand incapable of sustaining grain crops. For decades, the Hope family eked out a subsistence living, their exhaustive labor yielding minimal returns. Financial constraints were ever present. It's documented that George's mother endeavored for years to save enough from poultry and dairy sales to purchase a larger dining table, a humble aspiration never realized. This backdrop of relentless toil and economic hardship profoundly influenced George's perspective and future endeavors. At the age of 18, George Hope assumed management of Fenton Barns due to his parents' declining health, a direct consequence of their grueling agricultural struggles. Unlike his predecessors, George possessed a cultivated intellect, having spent 4 formative years apprenticed in a lawyer's office. This experience honed his analytical acumen and introduced him to a breadth of ideas beyond traditional farming lore. A critical influence during this period was the work of Dr. William Ellery Channing, a prominent American Unitarian theologian. Channing's treatises on individual potential, social justice, and the moral imperative of self-improvement resonated deeply with Hope. This philosophical foundation would underpin his approach to both agriculture and his later social advocacy. Confronted with the farm's suboptimal soils, George Hope undertook a methodical analysis grounded in emerging principles of agronomy and soil science. Recognizing the limitations imposed by the clay's poor permeability and the sand's lack of fertility, he devised an unprecedented strategy of soil amelioration through mechanical alteration. He initiated large-scale translocation of soil masses, effectively mixing sand into the clay regions to enhance drainage and workability, and incorporating clay into the sandy areas to improve moisture retention and nutrient holding capacity. This arduous task required substantial manual labor and logistical coordination, a testament to his commitment and organizational prowess. In addressing the pervasive waterlogging of the clay soils, Hope innovated by establishing an on-site kiln for the production of clay tiles, essential components of subterranean drainage systems. At peak operation, his kiln produced approximately 11,000 tiles weekly. This enterprise not only facilitated comprehensive drainage of his own land, over 13,000 tiles installed at an estimated cost of £2,600, approximately $13,000 in mid-19th century currency, equating to over $400,000 today when adjusted for inflation, but also supplied neighboring farms, disseminating technological advancements throughout the region. Adhering to the principles of high farming, Hope invested heavily in soil fertility. In one notable season, he expended upwards of 1,600 pounds on top dressings, including guano, bone meal, nitrate of soda, and sulfate of ammonia. Such substantial capital outlays were uncommon among tenant farmers of the era and underscored his belief in scientific agriculture as a pathway to enhanced productivity. George Hope's agronomic interventions yielded significant agrarian outputs. Quantitative data from farm records indicate that crop yields, particularly of wheat and barley, increased markedly, exceeding regional averages by substantial margins. The formerly infertile sandy soils began producing high-quality cereals, while the improved clay fields became exemplary models of productivity. His successes attracted the attention of agriculturalists, economists, and policymakers. Fenton Barns evolved into a locus for agricultural study, with visitors from across Europe and America seeking to understand the methodologies underlying its transformation. Among these was an American visitor who, serendipitously, was the nephew of Dr. Channing. The encounter highlighted the transatlantic exchange of progressive ideas and underscored the global relevance of Hope's work. By integrating scientific principles with practical application, George Hope anticipated modern agricultural practices, including soil management, crop rotation, and sustainable land use, contributions that would influence agronomy for generations. Integral to Hope's philosophy was a steadfast commitment to the well-being of his laborers. In an era when agricultural workers often endured harsh conditions and social marginalization, Hope promoted an ethos of respect and egalitarianism. He improved housing conditions by constructing cottages that surpassed prevailing standards in comfort and sanitation, a tangible investment in his employees' quality of life. Understanding the social dimensions of labor, he hosted annual harvest home celebrations renowned for their inclusivity and temperance. Departing from customary practices that emphasized alcohol consumption, Hope provided alternative refreshments such as tea, coffee, and seasonal fruits, thereby fostering a wholesome environment. He personally engaged in the festivities, often leading dances, a gesture symbolizing his belief in the intrinsic equality of all individuals, regardless of social standing. In a seminal address to a convocation of landlords and farmers in 1861, Hope articulated his progressive stance. Treat your laborers with respect, as men, encourage their self-respect. Never enter a poor man's house any more than a rich man's unless invited, and then go not to find fault, but as a friend. Remember how hard it is for a poor man to respect himself. He hears the wealthy styled the respectable, and the poor, the lower classes, but never call a man low. His being a man dwarfs and renders as nothing all the distinctions of an earthly estate. This ideology prefigured later labor reforms and reflected a profound understanding of social dynamics. Hope's vision extended beyond agriculture. He was deeply invested in the socio-political landscape of his time. As an ardent liberal, he supported the 1832 Reform Act, advanced by Lord John Russell, which sought to rectify inequities in parliamentary representation and enfranchise broader segments of society. Aligning with figures such as Richard Cobden and John Bright, Hope actively participated in the Anti-Corn Law League. The Corn Laws, protective tariffs that shielded British agriculture from foreign competition, resulted in elevated food prices and disproportionately affected the working class. The repeal of these laws in 1846 marked a significant shift toward free trade, an outcome that Hope had vigorously advocated for, recognizing its potential to alleviate widespread economic distress. Additionally, Hope campaigned against the game laws, archaic statutes that criminalized the hunting of game by anyone other than landowners and their delegates. With approximately 5,000 annual convictions, these laws exemplified systemic injustices. Hope viewed their reform as essential to dismantling the oppressive structures imposed by the landed gentry. Despite his considerable contributions, Hope's independence and reformist activities brought him into conflict with the prevailing system of landlordism. The estate encompassing Fenton Barns was inherited by R.A. Dundas. Christopher Nisbet Hamilton, through marriage, a landlord whose conservative ideologies and predilection for game hunting stood in stark contrast to Hope's progressive principles. As Hope's extensive lease approached its conclusion, he offered terms for renewal that included a higher rent reflective of the enhanced value he had cultivated on the land. Hamilton's categorical refusal was not predicated on economic considerations, but was an act emblematic of the social and political tensions of the time. The denial was widely interpreted as retribution for Hope's liberal affiliations and his opposition to policies favoring landowners' privileges. This eviction, effectively dispossessing Hope of the land he had transformed over 5 decades, elicited widespread condemnation. Contemporary accounts in the press decried Hamilton's actions as illustrative of the capriciousness and injustices inherent in the landlord-tenant dynamic. It ignited discourse on the need for systemic reforms to protect the rights and investments of tenant farmers. Faced with displacement, George Hope leveraged his accumulated wealth to actualize a personal aspiration, owning land outright. He purchased a farm where he continued to implement and refine the agricultural innovations that had defined his career. Ownership afforded him the autonomy to pursue his vision without the constraints imposed by tenancy. The public response to his eviction was resoundingly supportive. Hope was honored with public dinners and presented with commemorative silver plate, attesting to the high esteem in which he was held by peers and the broader community. Upon his death in 1876, George Hope was interred in the parish near his ancestral home, his legacy immortalized by an inscription, "To the memory of George Hope, for many years tenant of Fenton Barns." He was the devoted supporter of every movement which tended to the advancement of civil and religious liberty and to the moral and social elevation of mankind. His life's work transcended the boundaries of his farm, influencing agricultural practices and social ideologies. His integration of scientific principles into farming anticipated future developments in agronomy and sustainable agriculture. George Hope's narrative is a testament to the profound impact that informed vision and ethical conviction can have on both industry and society. His methodological approaches to soil management and crop production were harbingers of modern sustainable practices, emphasizing the importance of scientific inquiry in enhancing agricultural productivity. Moreover, his unwavering commitment to social justice and the dignity of laborers challenged the entrenched class systems of his time, contributing to the gradual progression toward more equitable societal structures. The adversities he faced, particularly his conflict with landlordism, underscore enduring themes in the discourse on land rights, social equity, and the distribution of wealth generated from communal resources. As we reflect on Hope's enduring legacy, we are reminded of the vital interplay between innovation, social responsibility, and perseverance. His life's work encourages us to continue advocating for progress grounded in ethical considerations, a pursuit as relevant today as it was in his time.